Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamson Entertainment. This week I'm reviewing The Shining.
Spoiler alert! You've been warned.
As of now, this is my all-time favorite horror movie. Tension is just really drawn out and twisted, and it's just a really well-done movie. Of course, it's done by the great Stanley Kubrick, who only makes great movies. I've seen the movie a number of times. The first time I saw it, I think, was in my late teens, and I saw it because it was Jack Nicholson, and I thought, like, okay, let me see him in something other than, Batman or Anger Management. And the first time I watched it, I was like, nah, that was good. I liked it. It didn't really scare me. And then I watched it a couple more times, and same impression. I picked up on a little more things. Then I had the opportunity to see it on the big screen, and it terrified me to watch it on the big screen. It was a completely different experience. It's not just the fact that it's on a much larger screen, is the sound quality is completely different than just watching it on a TV. It completely immerses you, and my heart was going like this in the theater. I was not expecting that. I was expecting to go and enjoy a movie that I like. But no, if you have the opportunity, I really suggest you go see The Shining on the big screen. So a brief synopsis of the movie: it stars Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, a married couple who have a son named Danny. I actually got to meet Danny. His autograph right here. Nice guy. I'll get to when I met him later. Jack interviewed for caretaker position of the Overlook Hotel, which I think is in Washington State, and he gets a job, and him and his family are supposed to watch from the winter, which is, I guess it's November to May when it reopens. And the manager or the owner of the hotel kind of warned him, like, we've had an incident back here a few decades ago. And when I tell people this, and I try to be honest as much as I can, some people just shy away and we never hear back from them. And Jack's like, oh, that's not a problem at all. It doesn't bother me. And he also is warned about cabin fever because it's just 3 people in this huge hotel for like 5 months. Once the family's in the hotel, that's where the fan base gets divided. Especially Stephen King himself. He can't stand this movie. He's notorious for hating this version of The Shining. I don't know why. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. Other than the fact that apparently in the book, I need to read more. Jack is supposed to be a normal guy who becomes a madman. And that's an interesting character study and all. But I still like what Stanley Kubrick did and how Jack Nicholson portrayed the character. And I understand why Stephen King would be upset with that. Like, because if you take a look at Jack Nicholson, who's kind of a madman himself, you can see watching this character that, yeah, he's gonna want to murder his family.
And that's the Overlook Hotel. I must warn you though, one of our past caretakers, Mr. Grady, murdered his family because of cabin fever. That's not a problem at all. I'm a writer. I'm looking forward to the peace and quiet. My wife and son will love it here.
Which brings to the point that Stanley Kubrick may have been trying to make, is that his story is not about a normal man who slowly turns mad. It's about a madman who embraces it and shows his true colors. In the end, though, the character Jack fails at trying to kill his family, and when he's chasing after his son in this elaborate hedge maze, and it's freezing cold outside, it's in the middle of a blizzard, and he's chasing his son with this axe, and Danny's too smart for him, and he gets away from him and escapes the maze. And because Jack has gone completely and utterly mad, he doesn't leave the maze and he eventually freezes to death. But the most fascinating thing about this movie is the behind the scenes about it. Stanley Kubrick wanted it as an authentic performance out of all the cast as best as possible. And unfortunately, this led him to being a complete and utter bastard to Shelley Duvall. This poor woman actually had to go into therapy because of this movie. She does mention it in the special features. She also thanks Stanley Kubrick for the experience because she's a better actress for it. I don't know how much of that is actually genuine or she's saying it because she's on camera. I don't know. But the poor woman, scenes like, well, the iconic "Here's Johnny" scene, a lot of interesting facts behind that. One, when Jack Nicholson is swinging that axe, he had to go through a few prop doors because he used to be a volunteer firefighter. And he is swinging the axe correctly, and he's chopping it down correctly. They had some like hollow prop doors, and he would just blow right through them. And so when they finally got a real door up there, I don't know how many takes they took with this one, but the end result is this masterful horror scene in one of the best in all of horror, where he's chopping down the door. When they cut to Shelley Duvall, she is literally terrified. She's not acting. That is real. She probably lost control of her faculties. It's a good thing she was in the bathroom. And then the "here's Johnny" line was improvised because Jack thought it would be funny to make Johnny Carson joke. Now I'll touch on a little of when I actually met Danny. The actor's real name is Danny. Unfortunately, I can't remember his last name. But I asked him about it. I mean, what was it like to work with Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson? He said, you know what? I was, to be honest, I was too young to actually absorb what was going on around me and to actually understand. So unfortunately, I don't remember what the experience was like. And I can understand that. He's probably like 6 or so when he made this movie. But it was interesting. Unfortunately, the iconic twins were also there, but I just couldn't afford to get his autograph and their autographs. But if they ever come back in town to one of the conventions I frequent, I definitely would like to meet them. It'd be nice to meet the entire cast. I'd have Jack Nicholson sign just like 1 or 2 or 10 things. Then there are some conspiracy theories around this movie, which I dismiss, but I figured I'd talk about it because it's part of the movie, or it's become part of the movie. There have been conspiracy theories that this movie is Stanley Kubrick's confession that he filmed the moon landing and we didn't go to the moon. We went to the moon, people. There are too many people that worked back then and are working now that had to keep that silent for it to be contained for decades. And my theory for the reason why Danny's wearing this Apollo 11 sweater is it was a conspiracy back then, and Stanley Kubrick was doing what we would call trolling today. He was trolling the conspiracy theorists. I like to think that's why he had Danny wearing the Apollo 11 sweater. If there is a collector's edition out there of The Shining, I highly recommend you get it. I first owned it on DVD and then I updated it to Blu-ray because there was a Stanley Kubrick 3 movie pack. And so I own it that way now, and I took the DVD version up to the family cabin. But I do highly recommend, if you have an opportunity to go to a Fathom event, if a local theater in your area shows old movies, and The Shining is one of them, I really recommend you go see it on the big screen. It is completely different than watching it on the small screen, and you'll walk away with a whole new appreciation for it. I'd like to see more Stanley Kubrick movies on the big screen. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on The Shining and where does it fall for you in your horror movies. And any suggestions for horror movies you might have for me, because I do like horror. It's just there's a lot of horror that just doesn't do it for me. It used to scare me as a kid, but now it takes quite a bit for me to get scared. I mean, there's gross out horror, but I mean, I don't want to be grossed out. I'd rather be scared. There's a difference between gross out and being scared. I'd rather be scared. This weekend, I'll be covering my first convention of the year, Thy Geekdom Con. It's one I haven't been to before, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have to build up a lot of courage for myself because, as I stated in my first video for the year, one of my goals is to interview 10 cosplayers. If you like what you saw, like it. If you think other people will like it, share it. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and live your imagination.